Talk Radio.
Keeping you up to date across the UK, online, on DAB+, and on the Talk Radio app.
Julia Hartley-Brewer at breakfast on Talk Radio.
Good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for your company. As I just mentioned before the news, we will be talking more about that racism row and the resignation of the Yorkshire County Chairman Roger Crutton over the allegations made by a cricketer Azim Rafiq and their report and failure to tackle, many are saying, the issues of racism, accusations of institutional racism in that organisation, and tributes to the showbiz legend who was Lionel Blair, who sadly died at the age of 92. Right now, though, it's time for our weekly feature on the show in association with Mastercard.
Mentoring Masterclass on Talk Radio with Strive UK from Mastercard, empowering small businesses for a digital future. Find out more at mastercard.co.uk/strive.
Well, Strive UK from Mastercard is an initiative to support small business with the help it needs to drive the economy and thrive in a changing world. Part of this is expert help and mentoring. And over the next few months, we'll be celebrating mentoring schemes and their benefits in a series we're calling Mentoring Masterclass. Today, my guest, I'm delighted to say, is David Stenhouse. He's Chief Executive Officer of the John Schofield Trust, which is an organisation mentoring early career journalists and young people hoping to enter journalism. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Julia.
I'd say my first advice to anyone who wants to go into journalism is to marry well first, so you can afford to be a journalist for an awful lot of people. But it is, I mean, I've been very lucky to have a very full career, somehow still going at 53. It is an incredibly rewarding career, but it can be really hard for people to get into. And that's where mentoring is absolutely vital, isn't it?
It's really tough. And I mean, you joke about sort of marrying well. That's not an option that's available to everybody. And I think one of the things that the Trust tries to do is to say to people who don't have sort of huge amounts of money in the bank or don't have connections in journalism, that we'll provide them the support necessary to get into the profession. And so what we try and do is, this is a great week for us to be talking, because this week I've been sitting down with the trustees of the John Schofield Trust, and we've been deciding how many of the people who applied to us this year are going to get into our mentoring scheme next year. And what's been really interesting, Julia, is that this year, not only have we had more people applying to us to be mentored, we've also had more people volunteering to be mentors. So I think one of the things that's happened during the pandemic is that people are really reflecting on what they need to sort of supercharge their career. And that is also older journalists, experienced journalists, who also want to mentor and are thinking, what can I get out of that?
And that's really important, isn't it? And actually mentoring, people, everyone we've spoken to in this series has said how much they've got out of it themselves, not just as as someone who's been mentored, but someone who is someone who's doing the mentoring. And all of us in all of our careers, doesn't matter whether you're selling photocopiers, you're a police officer, you're a journalist, or whatever it is you do, we will all have had people in our careers who've been sort of older than us and who've offered a few wise words of advice or have just opened the door to that first opportunity, whether it was work experience or whatever. And that can often be the difference between a career happening or not at all.
Absolutely. It's hugely important. And I think people volunteer to mentor for us because they want to learn. Yeah. I was watching your little trail before we started speaking about, how you can watch your show on your phone or whatever. 20 years ago, people were still cutting quarter-inch magnetic tape with razor blades when they wanted to.
Oh yes, I started out typing on a typewriter with
absolutely. So the industry is, for all sorts of reasons, in a state of incredible change and churn. I think people want to volunteer as mentors for us because they want to learn. They want to learn from the old model that the wise mentor passes on their wisdom to the young. It doesn't work anymore. It's an exchange of information and ideas. And I think that's why our scheme, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and the Trust is celebrating its 25th anniversary, I think that's why we are now in more demand than ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you've got this early career scheme. You've also got the sort of a scheme for young people, for sixth formers. Do they work very differently, those schemes?
Basically, the model is the same. That we pair people who are want to mentor for us with people who want to be mentored. And the sixth form one, we work with a number of schools across England and Wales that are in what's called social mobility cold spots. So it's working with people who are coming from backgrounds where they don't often have a connection to journalism, but they're interested and they want to find out. And the early career one, I think earlier on you said young journalists. We say early career because some of the people that we're mentoring are in their kind of 50s and are either trying to get back into journalism or get into journalism for the first time.
Yeah, and a lot of people changing careers, aren't they? Yeah. Can I just ask, finally, I mean, in terms of some of the best advice you've heard and some of the, I suppose, most inspiring relationships you've seen, are there some stories that you have that from over all those years of doing this that you actually you lie awake at night and think, I've done a good job there?
Well, I think what we're doing is we're helping people to form enduring professional friendships. So that one of our trustees, when they found out that their mentee was going to be working on Christmas Day and wasn't going to see their family, he sent a hamper round to their house. So that these are relationships which, in a formal sense, we support for 12 months, but they go on for much longer than that. And we have people who have been mentored for us, 8-9 years ago, sending us messages saying, I've just got a new job and it wouldn't have been possible without the continuing support of my mentor. So it's that kind of thing that we're in the business of. And I think that's really, really important. And, some of our mentors say, if you've had a rough week, you can send me a text at 10 o'clock on Friday night and we can chat about it. So there's something very important in those relationships. And the other, maybe the key thing I should say is, what we do is, if someone applied to us on talkRADIO, we would pair them up with someone that works from a completely different organisation. So that there's the possibility to have a really candid conversation about, I'm not sure if I like this new boss, without that ever getting back.
Get me off the breakfast show. Yeah.
or I'm desperate to work on the breakfast show and I don't know how to get in. That kind of.
That sounds incredible, and it's really lovely. It's the people who are doing the mentoring who are getting a lot out of it, and those relationships are being developed. David Stenhouse, a pleasure to speak to you, sir. Chief Executive Officer of the John Schofield Trust. That's our mentoring class for this week with Strive UK from Mastercard. Don't forget, we're doing mentoring in many different fields in many different areas, not just obviously in certain careers. You can find out more at mastercard.co.uk/strive.
Mentoring Masterclass on talkRADIO with Strive UK from Mastercard, connecting small business owners with the right digital tools and support to help big ideas thrive. Find out more at mastercard.co.uk/strive.
Right, well, let's turn our attention to that breaking news this morning. That's the resignation of the chairman of Yorkshire County Cricket Club, Roger Hutton. He resigned ahead of an emergency meeting today to discuss the club's response to those racist